First News with Keeler in the morning on WIBX and WIBX950.com.
Ryan Nobles from CNN standing by right now. Ryan, good morning.
Hey, Bill. Good morning. How's everybody doing? Sorry I missed you yesterday.
Very upset over, DeGrom puts on such a great performance, and we can't score a run, a couple of runs. Come on here.
Last night I was inside the chamber for the president's speech, and I had to get in there an hour before the speech took place, so there was nothing for me to really do but watch my phone and watch this dismal outing by the Mets offense. And it's unbelievably frustrating how something happens with their bats. They're like frozen on their shoulders when DeGrom is pitching and pitching so masterfully. I don't understand it. The guys on the broadcast at one of the games speculated that they treat DeGrom's outings like playoff appearances or something, and it overwhelms them that they're working too hard to get hits.
Yeah, it's just crazy.
I don't know if that's a good excuse. They're professionals. These are just games. They need to score runs. They can't get. I don't understand it.
Well, you're taking on the highest performing offense in Major League Baseball. You shut down their offense, but then you have no offense. It's crazy.
I hate to do this so early on in his tenure, but I think we need to start asking questions about Francisco Lindor, especially given the huge contract he received. I think he's been overall a net positive for the team. His attitude is terrific. He seems to be a team leader. He's terrific in the field, but man, his bat has just been completely absent from this first part of the season. And
wow.
If they're going to be a playoff contender, he's got to hit 300 and contribute a lot more than he is right now.
You have to understand that this is exactly where I think the Mets thought he would be as production-wise. It happens every time that they lure a big free agent from somebody. I know they acquired him via trade, but whether it's Jason Bay or Roberto Alomar, Mo Vaughn,
well, maybe he could get like a canary-colored armband or something. That might help.
Yoenis Cespedes is the only guy who bucked that trend, and they rode him all the way to the World Series. But
then... Look what happened.
Yeah, and officially he's listed as a free agent. Somebody could sign him, but it's amazing to see how he went from like the greatest hitter of all time to he got a leg injury and he hasn't played in 4 years.
Yeah, I know.
So
falling off a horse will do that to you, I guess.
It will. What are you doing on a horse?
Well, but that's the thing. He fell off the horse while he was rehabbing another leg injury, and then he broke both of his ankles. And it's been a wrap.
He did come back, if you remember. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he came back and played the first game of last year and hit a home run.
Yes.
And there was a thought that he would be terrific, and then he played for like a week and then decided to opt out for the rest.
It wasn't a walk-off, but I believe it was a game-winning home run. It was decided the game on opening day last year, and then he said, you know what, I'm not going to do this.
Basically.
Okay, Ryan, first of all, I saw John Decker is going to be on. I don't know if you get to see John at all, who was formerly from Fox and now with Great TV. He'll be on later on in the hour. Was also in the chambers last night.
John was sitting right behind me, actually.
And it's funny. He just sent me a picture of. He was sitting there. He is, and 3 seats down is Bernie Sanders, all bundled up. So it was, that meme that was going around. Anyway, I saw a picture of his ticket. That's a pretty cool a souvenir to have.
Yes, I have one as well. I posted it on my Instagram last night. If you want to see it, so John and I both, and I don't want to spoil this from him if he's going to tell you the story. Only 200 people were allowed into the chamber last night. You had to show proof of either that you'd been fully vaccinated or that you'd had a negative COVID test in the last 48 hours. You had to go through a long line. And, every single person who sat in the chamber last night had their names attached to a seat, a very, kind of impressive placard with a congressional seal on it.
Yeah.
And those of us that are in the press were no different than the members of Congress, and we each had a seat, and you had to be in the chamber, a certain time before. You had to wear a mask the entire time. It was my first time covering a presidential address like this, and at first I was a little disappointed, given that it wasn't going to be the huge pomp and circumstance that you get from these normally. But there was part of me that's like, this is historic. It's never been like this before, so it was neat to experience it from that perspective.
Really. So your takeaway on the speech? I said earlier, it's unbelievable how the anticipation for Joe Biden is so low that when he comes out and gives a performance like last night, everybody's like, "Wow, it's so much better than I thought it was going to be."
I think that's a byproduct of basically a year and a half of Donald Trump suggesting that he basically couldn't put two sentences together, and also the fact that he, because of coronavirus, he just wasn't out and as visible during the presidential campaign as one would normally be. But I think you're right, and I also think that Democrats do a pretty good job of underestimating his ability to present a speech like this. There wasn't a ton of anticipation for it, and I think it wasn't one of the most soaring, unforgettable speeches of all time. But what Joe Biden does well is that he has, a goal in mind of what he wants to accomplish and the point that he wants to make, and he does a good job delivering it. And I think the thing that, the reason that he connects the best with the American people is it comes across in an authentic, earnest way. Like, you believe that this is what he wants to accomplish. You don't think that he's trying to put one over on you. It's not necessarily inspiring, but I think one interesting thing about the first 100 days of the Biden administration is he's not looking to be inspiring. He's looking to kind of return the White House and a presidential administration back to the mean, make everybody, to a certain extent, forget about what all that chaos that happened over the last 4 years. And I think last night was a good example of that.
And I do think that it is. I hate to say, but it's just it's boring.
Yeah, it was boring again. Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
It's boring.
I was talking with some fellow members of the press last night, and I said, I guarantee the ratings are going to come out at some point today, and they're not going to be nearly what they've been in past presidential State of the Unions. They'll compare them to Trump speeches. They'll compare them to Obama speeches. And it's probably going to be a lot less. And, it's got a lot to do with the way people are consuming media now, first of all. But it also has a lot to do with just that, people just aren't thinking about politics, as part of their daily diet of information the way they were for the past 3 years. They don't want to think about it anymore. They want to get on to other things in their lives. And I don't think that that's something that bothers Joe Biden or his administration. Yeah. They would prefer you to not have him be the number one thing you think about every morning. And if you do think about it, you're like, all right, he's taken care of it. I'm just going to move on with the rest of my life.
Former President Trump was on Fox this morning, which, again, is something that is somewhat abnormal. Normally, the presidents stay quiet. You will not be getting that from President Trump, as I think we all, most of us expected. But without Twitter, he's been quieter than we thought, but he was on Fox and criticized the speech, saying no mention of the border. Did that surprise you? Because there's a lot of trouble there. That's been one of the very difficult parts of this administration.
Yeah, and even Democrats were critical of that last night. Mark Kelly, who's the new senator from Arizona, but is up for re-election right away because he was filling an unexpired term. He said that he had hoped that the president would lay out more of kind of a specific plan for what he wants to do along the southern border. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt that Republicans see this as their biggest opportunity to challenge Biden and his administration, because they have, unlike the incredible focus on coronavirus, unlike their incredible focus on pumping money and efforts into the economy. The border is something I don't think that they expected to be such a huge problem and crisis, even the president calling it a crisis now, as it has been so early on in his administration. I don't know if you caught this last night, Bill, but, Colorado Congresswoman Lauren Boebert, who is, kind of a firebrand, she's of the Freedom Caucus, Trump wing of the party, she pulled out one of those space blankets, those foil blankets that the children are wrapped in some of these migrant detention centers, and she pulled it out about halfway through the speech when Biden made passing reference to immigration and put it over her legs. And her office told me last night that was a protest gesture to try and draw attention to the fact that Biden wasn't focusing on immigration enough. I do think this is a growing problem and one that his administration is going to have to put more of a focus on in the days and weeks to come.
All right, interesting stuff, and interesting being there in person to something that we've, for the last year, I mean, obviously being there in person for you is somewhat iconic in your career, which is awesome. But at the same time, being anywhere in person, it kind of feels good, right?
Yeah, I went to a lot of political rallies, Trump rallies during the presidential campaign. Yeah. So I was still going to these kind of mass gathering events. They were a little uncomfortable. This is the first time in a long time I've been indoors at an event that was designed to be for a lot of people. It was still weird. I think I'm looking forward to going to a baseball game pretty soon. At Nationals Park here in Washington.
Yep.
The ballpark's open, but there aren't that many people there, and I get the sense it's probably similar to that. It's almost normal, but not quite there yet. We're on the way to normal,
All right, Ryan, thanks, man. We'll do it again next week. Thank you.
I mean, Bill, you might be the only guy in America that's got two guys that were in the chamber on your radio show.
I'm telling you.
Incredible.
All in the same hour. I mean, we're loaded right here. Loaded up. Loaded up.
Well,
ready
John,
to go.
I said hi.
All right, thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.